Hi, good evening, everyone. It's Mitchell Jacob here, the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. Last night, as most of you probably know, we had a runoff election for House District 20 for the Republican candidates. And we got a lot of the results back, and I just want to take a few minutes to talk about those this evening. So for those of you who are following House District 20 and the election, in that runoff, a total of, let me do the math really quickly, 3,243 votes were cast, and 3,334 of those have been counted. What's really interesting about that is that the election came out based upon that evening's tally within 2 votes. It was 1,666 votes for one of the candidates and 1,668 votes for the other. So based upon that, as you can see, the vote was only off by 2 total votes. Why does that matter? The reason it matters that the Republican runoff last night came down to 2 total votes is because of something that I've been hearing constantly throughout this entire election. I hear over and over and over and over during this election, that my vote doesn't matter, or I'm not going to vote because it doesn't count, or it doesn't make a difference, whatever the excuse is. And honestly, my friends, if you say that, then I'm sorry to say, but it's just an excuse. But the reason that excuse doesn't work anymore is because in House District 20, the runoff was won last night by 2 votes. And what's even more incredible than the fact that it came down to 2 votes is that we can't declare the runoff yet, even though it's only off by 2 votes, because 9 provisional ballots were cast. And I apologize, I'm going to back up. I see a lot of people suddenly joining. So I'm going to back up for just 1 second, do a very quick recap, and jump right back in. I'm talking tonight about how important it is to vote. And I have direct information to talk about on why it's so important to go out to vote. Last night on you can tell where I am. Last night on August 27th of 2024, House District 20, which is where I'm running in Oklahoma, had a runoff election. And in that runoff election, it was for the 2 Republicans to see which of them is going to go against me in November. The election came out within 2 votes. Let me say that one more time. One candidate got 1,666 votes, and the other candidate got 1,668 votes. It came down to 2. That is one example of why it is so incredibly important and crucial that each and every one of us show up to vote at every single election. But even more importantly than that, my friends, not only was the tally off by 2 votes last night, but 9 provisional ballots were cast in my election. 9. And they're going to be counted on Friday morning. That means that it's so close that those candidates don't even know who won, even though the results are back from the electronic tallying and the ballots that were put into the machine yesterday. So now they have to wait for the hand counting of 9 votes. That's it. Just 9 votes are going to make the determination of who won the Republican runoff last night in this district, House District 20. And I am having this live event tonight to talk about how crucially important it is that you, and I'm talking to you, my friend who's listening right now, how important it is that you show up to vote this November, on November 5th, for the election. This district is going to decide who will be the Republican candidate by, I'm using a margin of error here, but by 11 votes. 11 votes are what are going to dictate which one of them goes against me in November. And that same thing can happen in November if you don't get out and vote for the candidate that you believe in. It is so crucially important that we vote, not just because elections can come down to 2 votes or 9 provisional ballots if you live in House District 20 for the runoff, but your democracy is on the line. The future that your children will know, the America or Gilead that your children will grow up in, is on the line. If you enjoy personal liberty, if you enjoy your freedoms, if you enjoy the right to talk smack about the candidates that you do not like, you must go vote. As you know, there is an active push with Project 2025 to turn the United States of America into the Confederate States of Gilead, turn us into a Christian nationalist country. And we must go vote against that. I go to church every single Sunday. I text my pastor and I go to Wednesday evening small groups. But guess what? I refuse to let my pastor endorse me. I refuse to let religion drive my political beliefs. And I am a proponent of the First Amendment that has an anti-establishment clause and states that no religion may be established by the government in the United States of America. Well, let's go back to why I started this live cast, as more and more I see it's jumping very rapidly. So just a quick, brief recap of what we're talking about tonight. So my name is ElectMitchellJacob. I'm the Democratic nominee for Oklahoma's House District 20. And the reason it is so incredibly important and crucial that each of you, my friends, goes out and votes on November 5th is because the election last night, when the final results were tallied, came within two votes. But even more interesting than that, not only do the candidates know that one of them won last night by 2 votes, but 9 provisional ballots were cast. That's it. That's it. Just between those 2 votes and the 9 provisional ballots, we have a margin of 9 votes. Bad math. I'm sorry. 9 plus 2 equals 11. We have a margin of 11 votes to determine who won the Republican runoff last night in Oklahoma's House District 20. And those 9 provisional ballots are going to be counted this Friday morning. And whichever way that provisional ballot count goes, that's what will determine who my opponent will be in November. And the reason I chose to take tonight to do this, I promise, they're khakis. But the reason I chose to use this evening to talk about why it's so important that you vote is because not only can these elections, as we witnessed in House District 20 last night, not only can they come down to 2, 9, or 11 votes, depending upon which way you want to look at it, but your future is on the line. The future that your kids will know, the America or the Gilead that they will be raised in, is on the line. I know that we get tired of hearing this, but 2024 is a crucial election year. In fact, my friends, did you know that never before, so far as I'm aware, never before has a convicted felon become a nominee for a major party in the United States. Never before has Project 2025 been the item that the president is actually choosing to implement. And Chaz, I would argue, there's a question coming from one of my friends on TikTok, since multiple platforms are joining tonight. And the question was, do district elections matter? And honestly, my friends, if you're listening to this tonight, I have to tell you that not only do district elections matter, but they are actually the most important. Because if you really think about it, whenever the president is elected, they come up with all these policies for the United States in general and where they want the country to go. But none of that typically trickles down to the way that you and I live our life. However, the legislation that I will sponsor and write will change the rights, privileges, immunities, taxes, etc. of every single person who lives in this district and who lives in Oklahoma. So I would actually argue that the lower down you go on the ballot, the more important, crucial, and critical those elections are. Here in Oklahoma, we call our elected county officials county commissioners. And for example, McLean County, where I live, has 3. They set the tax rate. They determine the judges' salaries. That's not true. I apologize. That's at the legislative level. But they determine the county's budget is what I was trying to say. The budget, the tax rate for the county. There's so many things that they control, and there are three of them. State representatives, we sponsor legislation, we represent our district, we create the state budget. In case you didn't know that, similar to the way that Congress works here in Oklahoma, the House of Representatives also creates the budget and sends it up to the Oklahoma Senate for approval. So yes, I'm going to argue these local down ballot elections are crucial and incredibly important. I've got lots of people joining and chatting and commenting, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I will say that's absolutely true that the founding fathers were actually felons, but from a perspective of being traitors to England and things of that nature, I think they did the right thing between you and me. I love the Constitution that guides and dictates your life and mine. And in fact, I swore an oath to uphold and protect it, and I will always continue to do that. But for those of you who are just joining, because these numbers keep changing quite a bit, just wanted to give you a brief recap of why I chose to do this event tonight for a moment. In House District 20, Oklahoma's House District 20, where I live and where I'm running, I'm the Democratic nominee for House District 20 on November 5th for this election. There was a Republican runoff to determine which of the two remaining Republican candidates will be facing me in November. As of last night, one of the candidates received 1,666 votes, and the other candidate received 1,668 votes. My friends, as you can see, that vote was only off by 2 votes. And the reason I chose to come out and speak tonight is because something that has saddened me over and over and over on this campaign trail is how many people have told me that that they're not going to vote because their vote doesn't matter, and that they don't believe that it'll change anything, and they're just not going to cast a vote. But as you can see, it came down to 2 votes, and 9 provisional ballots were cast, which means that 11 votes are deciding which of those 2 individuals will be facing me in November. 11 votes, that is it. Out of the 3,343 votes that are cast, 11 of them are going to determine who will be my opponent in November. That is why it is critically important that you go out and vote. You don't know when your vote will be the deciding factor. Not to mention that you are voting for your policies, privileges, rights, immunities, tax rate, everything. Who you vote for determines which policies they will be sponsoring. And one of my friends in here is asking how to determine which House district they live in and will be voting for. And this really only applies if you live in Oklahoma. So for all my friends joining from elsewhere, I do apologize. I'm not super familiar with every state system, but in Oklahoma, we have the Oklahoma voter portal. It's actually very simple to use. You go to it, you enter your last name and your date of birth or last 4 of your social, I forget which one of those, and then it pulls up your account. Assuming the address that you see at the top is correct, just scroll down a little bit. It will tell you your House district, Senate district, which technology center is for your district where you live. All that data will be right there in your Oklahoma voter portal. And I truly encourage you to go check it out if you live in Oklahoma. Verify which House district you live in, verify which Senate district you live in. And then, my friends, if you haven't done it already, go look at who's running for office. We should know across most states who the candidates are for the November ballot, the November election. And I challenge you to go look them up. And here's the secret. If looking at their website and all their ads do not tell you what it is they actually stand for, give them a call. TruePeopleSearch.com, look them up, type in their address. It will show you their cell phone number. Give them a call. And if they don't want to talk to you, then ask yourself, do they deserve to represent you? And here's why I say that. Here's my cell phone number for anybody who's ready. My cell phone number is 405-407-6975. If you cannot call the cell phone number of your representative, then they're not here to represent you. They're here to represent special interest. And please don't call it right this second. That's going to interrupt the TikTok and make this get a little bit weird, but it will go to my cell phone, which is right here in front of me. Well, all I can say is that if you want to be able to live, so somebody had a post, and I'm just going to read the comment. It says, I'm gay, but I also like lower taxes. So here's what I'm going to say. If you want to be safe in the community you live in, if you want to make sure that your community pushes policies and positions that reflect who you are and the way that you live, then you must vote. And for everyone in House District 20, I want to say this right now. I love you. I think you belong here. I don't care what your religion is, your politics are, your gender preferences, your sexuality, your orientation. Regardless of your nationality, ethnicity, where you come from, where your parents came from, whether you're a first generation or a 10th generation American, I love you, and I think that you belong right here in House District 20 and in Oklahoma. And if you've never heard one of your elected representatives say that to you, then I encourage you to come move to House District 20, be my neighbor, and let's do some cookouts, barbecues, and grills, because everyone deserves to be loved where it is they live. The kind of policies that I want, thank you so much. I'm just going to make it really fast. There are 3 things that I stand for very strongly, and I'll go through them very quickly. The reason I chose to run, my friends, for anybody who doesn't know this yet, is because my wife and I have 5 kids. They're all boys. Statistically, I still don't understand how that happened. But we have 5 kids, and we got tired of sitting around the kitchen table complaining about the state of education here in Oklahoma. And we realized that instead of complaining around the kitchen table, we can do something about it. So I chose to run for office. The second reason I chose to run for office, similarly to the first, is we got tired of sitting around the kitchen table complaining that because we're registered Democrats, we don't get to vote for anything except the president. And once again, we realized that I can change that by just putting myself on the ballot. And so I chose to run. And there are 3 things that I'm running to try to change. First, in Oklahoma, we recently passed the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act. For those of you who aren't familiar, long story short, it is a new bill. It went into effect in 2023 that gives $250 million per year to private schools to pay for private school tuition. Between you and me, I don't think that wealthy families need their children's private school tuitions covered. And so I want to reallocate those funds and do 2 things with it. 1, pay for lunch and breakfast for every child who attends a public school in Oklahoma. And 2, pay for a new tax credit that allows teachers who have to pay for supplies out of pocket to be reimbursed for their investment in Oklahoma's children and future. The second thing that I want to take care of as the next representative for House District 20 is infrastructure. That means 2 things. We have old bridges that were designed to have combines go over a 1-lane bridge. They were built 60-something years ago, and in a city that is now 15,000 people, these 3 bridges are crippling our expansion. And in addition to that, House District 20 is facing critical shortages of water. And it blows my mind that in the United States of America, which is not a developing nation, nor is it a third world country, we're having issues with clean drinking water. Yeah, anyway, so that's one of the reasons I'm choosing to run. And third, I believe in small business, and I want to champion a new tax incentive where Oklahoman creating a new corporation gets 5 years or until they reach $500,000 in gross annual revenue with their company and pays no state taxes with that company. So those are the 3 things that I want to champion: public education, infrastructure, and jobs. But like I started this live stream, what I wanted to talk about and what I think is so critically important is that the election last night came down to 2 votes, and there are 9 provisional ballots outstanding. That's an 11-vote margin to determine who my opponent will be in November. 11 votes, that is it, to determine who the Republican will be for Oklahoma's House District 20. As you can see, that is a very small number, and I get so frustrated, and I have been frustrated this campaign cycle by the sheer number of people who have told me that they will not vote because their vote doesn't matter. And I'm here with proof that your vote is so critically important, and you must go out and vote, and you must go out and let your voice be heard. Because, my friends, if you do not vote, then you cannot inject your beliefs into the political system. We need a system that reflects the many, not just the few who choose to vote. So my challenge is that every single person who's tuning into this live stream will get out and vote. Give me 1 second. Thank you so much, so that I can check some other comments and respond to them as well. Sorry for stepping out. Cindy, I could not agree with you more, that the mentality that a vote doesn't matter. Here's the way I'll say that. If you say that you're not going to vote because your vote doesn't matter, then technically you're perpetuating a vicious cycle. You say your vote doesn't matter, so you don't go vote. You don't go vote, so your vote doesn't matter. And because your vote doesn't matter, you say your vote doesn't matter. If you say that out loud and then you don't go vote, you're the reason your vote doesn't matter. Let me say that again. If you say your vote doesn't matter and you choose not to vote, you are the only reason your vote doesn't matter. And I cannot accept that so many people have just given up on the most incredibly important thing that there is: choosing who it is that represents you, choosing who it is that pushes the policies that affect you, the tax rates that affect you, the people who choose when you die how your assets are going to be distributed if you don't have a will, choosing how you're going to be punished if you violate the law, choosing how you're going to be treated if you become incarcerated, if your family becomes incarcerated, the people who dictate whether or not mother and infant mortality rates will be improved in the states which they are running. These are all elected representatives, every single one of them. And if you do not vote, then you're saying that I don't care what happens to me, I don't care what happens to my family, I don't care what happens to my children, and I don't care what happens to this country. I really hope that that is not what you've been trying to say. And if that's not what you've been trying to say when you say your vote doesn't matter, then let this be a challenge right here, right now. I don't care who you vote for. I don't care which party you vote for. I care that you, my friend, vote, that you let your voice be heard, that you inject yourself into the political system, and that you make sure that nobody gets to roll over you because you didn't vote. Call me a drama queen if you want. I don't particularly care. But do not say your vote does not matter, because your vote is the most incredibly important thing that you can cast. My friends, all I came in tonight is to talk about how important it is to vote. It's important to vote because in Oklahoma's House District 20, for which I'm the Democratic nominee this November, the vote last night came down to 2 votes with 9 provisional ballots cast, which means that there was a margin of 11 total votes that will dictate who my opponent is this November. It is incredibly important that you vote. This is a democracy, not a dictatorship. So only votes should matter. We must protect this democracy, and the only way to do it is to ensure that you are voting for candidates that believe in democracy. If you don't know who it is that is running to represent you this November, then I challenge you, take the time right now. You're all on a connected device. If you're watching this, go look them up, see what their policies are. And this is the kicker. If you can't tell whether or not you would want to vote for them based upon that, then I challenge you to call their cell phone and ask them. And here's my cell phone for anyone who wants it, because I believe that if you can't get in touch with those who are running to represent you, then they are not running to represent you. 405-407-6975 will reach Mitchell Jacob. My cell phone number, 405-407-6975. And I believe that each of you has an important voice. Each of you has the right to vote, and each of you must vote. Please let your voice be heard this November. Please vote, and please take the time to look up the candidates running to represent you. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this evening. It's been really wonderful. If you agree with the message that you've heard here tonight, this is my 1 week of fundraising this election because I absolutely hate asking for money. So if you can give, go to MitchellJacob.com, make a donation. Every little bit counts. And this is the only week where I'm going to be asking for money. So thanks so much, everyone. It's been really wonderful talking to you, and I hope that you have a blessed evening.